Welcome to Indie Film Forum. I'm your host, Kalpana Biswas. Today, I'm delighted to introduce you to Carolina Loyola Garcia, an artist, filmmaker, dancer, and actor, and professor of media arts at Robert Morris University. Carolina's works have been shown in art galleries, museums, and film festivals in the US and overseas, in Chile, Thailand, and Mexico. She has been artist in residence in Spain and Germany and has performed with Quantum Theater in Pittsburgh. And she's the lead flamenco dancer with the ensemble Alba Flamenca, with whom she performs around Western Pennsylvania. In 2013, she finished a feature-length documentary called Sobre las Olas about flamenco dancing, which is the official selection at several festivals. Carolina, welcome to Indie Film Forum. Carolina, welcome to Indie Film Forum, and I'd like to dive right into this excellent documentary that you've made about flamenco dancers. You're from Chile. What got you interested in flamenco dancing and the film?
Well, I've had a love affair with flamenco for a very long time. Ever since I was a teenager, I was gravitated towards this art form. And I started studying it when I was in college, and I have not stopped. It's something that I will continue to study, I think until I die. It's like this endless wealth of knowledge. And my other passion in my professional life is film. I love to make movies. I love to create moving images. That's my clay, right? That's what I use to express and to create content. And so at some point I had the desire to bring these two loves of mine together. And animation was my first sort of diving into the world of animation, where I animated one of the rhythms of flamenco. And that's a very short piece. And then I attempted a video installation where I was portraying some aspects of a festivity that happens in southern Spain through, setting it up in a video installation. But, those were all trials, and they had a lot of failures associated with them, right? But my instinct and my desire to bring these two art forms into a, good partnership kept, developing. And so at some point I decided, well, maybe it's a good idea to try to make some kind of document telling the history of flamenco in the United States. I've been in the US for the past 18 years, and through my interest in flamenco, I've studied with a number of different people. I've brought a number of people to Pittsburgh to the workshops, and I, started getting connected with the flamenco community in the US, right? And so I had this awareness that there was an interest in flamenco, and there were flamenco communities around the country, right? And so through that, I thought, well, maybe it would be interesting to tell their story. And I started researching and realized that nobody had done that yet. There had been no serious attempt at telling the story of this art form in this country. There's been focuses on one artist or another artist, but nobody had yet tried to make a comprehensive survey, right, of what this art form is like here.
So when you went to Valencia and you were artist in residence over there, so how did that add to your passion for the...
Well, I was in Valencia doing a residency for a month, and as the many people that I met while I was there, I met a producer that was really into flamenco as well, and I pitched my idea to him, right? And so he was really interested in the project. And we started the very early stages of researching together, right? Then at some point we decided that it was not a good idea to collaborate because of the distance. It was, just really complicated. So I continued to work on it here in the States on my own. And I started the process of fundraising, right? Which the project was all funded through grants, various grants. And so I started, writing grants, and I got my first grant in, when was it, 2009, I believe. And with that money, which was very little money, we went on our first shoot to Washington, D.C. And with the material that we gathered there, I was able to put together a teaser that allowed me to write my next grant. And in the process, 4 years passed until the project was finished, right? So in the lapse of 4 years, we shot for 30 days total. The post-production process took about 6 months, and we shot in Washington, D.C., in Philadelphia, in New York, in Chicago, in Albuquerque, in Santa Fe, in L.A., and in Spain. And actually in Lancaster, Pennsylvania as well. And I brought some of the people to do interviews here in Pittsburgh when it was, cost effective.
It is so interesting for us to know that there are so many different groups of flamenco dancers over here. And I'd love to show a piece from the documentary that you have.
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, the colors, the passion, I think it's a phenomenal art form. So let's take a look at that.
Okay.
The good thing about Jose Greco's company was that he brought the entire culture of the Spanish dance, from classical, regional, and pure flamenco. He helped build what is flamenco now, I think, in the U.S.
There's no question that his influence changed the world of flamenco, but definitely changed the world of flamenco in the United States. He brought great artists with him.
Soy la hija de José Greco. Llevo prácticamente toda mi vida bailando. Y he vivido dentro del mundo de la danza pues desde que nací, puesto que mis padres bailaban, mi mamá también. Y entonces cuando yo estaba en el vientre de mi mamá hacía las giras con mi papá y bailaba. Entonces yo, ya te digo, prácticamente desde antes de nacer he estado dentro del mundo de la danza.
Tan, tan, taca, ta, y suave. Ta, taqui, taca. Tan, tan, y 1, 2, taca, taca. 7, 8, 9, 10. Y pa, pam, pam, ti. Kipin, kipin. Y tatán, tatán. Tan, taqui, taca.
Mi papá nace en un pueblecito en Italia, en una región que es la región de Molise, y es un pueblecito que parece de cuento. Está encima de una montaña. Bueno, es una locura llegar hasta él. Y es un pueblecito chiquitito, es como una aldeíta, ni siquiera es un pueblo. Mi abuelo, Paulo, claro, como eran... Me imagino que no había muy poco para buscarse la vida en esa aldeíta, pues decidió marchar a América a encontrar un nuevo camino, ¿verdad? Y lo logró. Primero se fue él, buscó un trabajo, buscó una casa y después mandó llamar a mi papá, a mi tía Norina y a su mujer, mi abuela.
Ay, dicen a mí, ay, corazón, que lo que más duele en el mundo, ay, es quemarse de pasión.
El flamenco ha llegado al teatro y ahora el flamenco está considerado como algo espectacularmente de alta clase. Pero cuando yo empecé, el flamenco era de tablaos, de gente de mal vivir, de gente nocturna. Y era un buen flamenco. Era un flamenco mucho más excitante que ahora. Mucho más excitante, porque era más puro, más verdadero. ¿Sabes? Sin aditivos, sin estudios. Procedía directamente del alma.
Carolina, I just love the passion that we see in the performers. And in fact, they seem to be carrying that over. Carmela carries that over even into the interviews in the way she talks. Her eyes are so expressive, her face is so expressive. And I love that she talks about how the whole art form, now that it's out in studios, has actually lost the quality that it used to have in the streets of Spain. What has been your feelings about the art form and how it's been received?
The idea behind making this movie, once I figured, what the content was going to be, was to tell three main stories. One is the story of José Greco, who was a really important figure in bringing flamenco to the United States and make it more of a mainstream art form. For a couple of decades, he toured all around the U.S. and literally all around the U.S. He would go to teeny tiny town in the middle of nowhere to Broadway runs. So we're telling his story. He died in the year 2000. So his story is being told by his widow, Ana Greco, and one of his daughters, Carmela Greco, who lives in Madrid currently. So that's one segment of information. Another segment of information is showing the people who are doing flamenco in the United States today. Why? Why are they here? Why do they decide to use this, particular art form to express themselves, right? Why in this country? And it was interesting to realize that a lot of them are, not all of them, but a lot of them are doing flamenco, and they're in the U.S. because of José Greco. They either started working with the José Greco company or at some point, were connected with him. So that was an interesting realization as I was making the movie. And then a third element of content that I wanted to showcase was the art form itself, right? What it looks and sounds like in this country. So we organized this set of black studio performances all around the country where different companies and solo artists are showcasing their art form in the singing, the cante, the playing, the toque, and the dancing, the baile.
So how have people received flamenco here? I mean, what has been the level of interest in Pittsburgh, for instance?
Well, the Pittsburgh flamenco community is very small, but people have been very appreciative of the film itself. The crew that I work with, in the most part, was Pittsburgh-based. So I felt that when the film was finished, that I should premiere it here in Pittsburgh because most of the funding came from this city, and the crew, as I said, was mainly based here. So we premiered it at the 2013 Three Rivers Film Festival. And it was a beautiful screening. So there was such warmth, and we had a full house. It was an amazing experience. Ana Greco actually came for that premiere, and she was overwhelmed with enthusiasm with all the people's affections and comments. And it was really interesting that after the screening, during the cocktail, after it, a lot of people came to her saying, "Oh, I saw the José Greco company in such and such town," and blah blah blah. So she was getting all this feedback from people, right? And the film has done quite well so far. It's shown in various festivals. Besides Pittsburgh, we've shown it in DC, in New York, in Boston, in Chicago, in San Antonio. It's gonna play now next month in Lithuania, from all places. There's a festival there that is showing it. So, and I have a number of other screenings set up for the year. And I was really lucky to sign a distribution deal with Pragda You can find, that information on their website, pragda.com, and they are releasing it. They released it actually in October for the educational market in the U.S. and Canada, so people can, get their libraries to buy it and, get access to it. So I am very pleased actually with how it's doing.
And you also had the process of sort of showing the work in progress to different people, and how have all of these organizations been supportive of your film? What have your experiences been there?
Yeah, that was an important part of my process in making this movie. Because it took so long to make, right? I was editing as I was, shooting, and I did organize screenings with focus groups, right? One of them was the documentary salon here in Pittsburgh, to show the work in progress, to get a sense of which characters were resonating with people more, which stories were more interesting, what aspects of the story were missing, what people were curious about, but the information wasn't there. So that proved to be very, very informational to me as an editor in terms of how the project was, coming through. When you edit a long format piece like this one, it's very easy to lose focus and to, get completely lost in the process of cutting it, right? That it's really good to have that experience of showing your work to other people, because it changes your own perception, actually, of what the work looks like. And
so you're talking about the Pittsburgh Filmmakers, the documentary salon that they have. And I love that salon, because I think it helps filmmakers, independent filmmakers, to show their work.
Yeah, it's a great resource we have here in Pittsburgh, the documentary salon.
And you say video is your passion, and you've been working with it not just in your documentary field, but also as an artist.
The one area that I've developed quite profusely is the area of using video as an art form. And so for, 15 or so years, I've been doing work that is, shorter in form, anywhere between 4 to 30 minutes, that I use more as an expressive tool, more related or closer to poetry than to documentary. But even saying that, some of the work that I've done lately brings all these different ways of making movie into one, weaving of things, right? Where I cannot really separate life from the work that I'm doing. It's all, very interconnected.
And I'd like to show one of the experimental films that you have.
Between Fortune and Despair, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Shooting a film in an empty pool. For some reason, that location was really interesting to me. But I didn't really quite know what to shoot in the pool. I knew I wanted to be something related to movement or dance, right? But I did not quite have a concept for it. It so happened that one morning I was in conversation with my partner, and we were talking about the difficulty of getting out of bed in the morning. And so that led into a whole play of a modern dance, contemporary dance kind of experience, right, of getting out of bed. And then I was like, voila, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to shoot a piece in an empty pool where there's a couple in a bed. Trying to get out of bed and experiencing all the different things that a relationship sort of entails, right? So I collaborated with Stacey Pearl, who's a choreographer here in Pittsburgh, and she choreographed the movement part of it. And then Coulter Harper, my partner, he did all the music composition. He scored the piece, and so we found this pool in Lawrenceville, and that I got access to. That is a pool that is in the process of being turned into a public park, and we shot it there. We, built the bed, and we shot the whole thing there, right? Brad Grimm shot this piece for me. It turned into this really interesting piece of the joys and desperations involved in partnerships, right? So this next piece is called Híbridos sin lineaje, which translates as hybrids without lineage. And I started cutting this piece when I was doing a residency in Valencia. For many years, I've been collecting interviews with people, just random people that I find interesting. Not really knowing exactly what I was going to do with them, but, archiving them. And then when I started cutting this piece while I was in the residency, I knew I wanted to bring all these voices together in some interesting way. So I selected some of them, sound bites, like the best minute and a half or the best 2 minutes from, I think there are around 7 of them. And I decided to assemble this with images from various travels. And so the piece starts with this quote from Alice in Wonderland, where Alice is going into the rabbit hole, right? As basically an invitation to the audience to come in this journey with me that I'm not really sure where it's gonna go or how it's gonna end, but it sure is gonna be interesting, and strange things are gonna happen, and strange connections are going to be made, and it's a visual journey. It's a visual journey through a variety of places, through a variety of voices, and it reflects, my creative interest in a fairly accurate way. And I shot it in various places in Spain, many different cities, various places in Chile also, and various places in the US.
Pienso estudiar psicología, pero para niños. Siento que eso es como el gran problema de una sociedad. Por ejemplo, me interesa caleta de los niños abusados. Siento que ese es el gran problema.
¿Por qué te interesa?
Mira, yo soy punk y creo en una sociedad anarquista donde nadie te premia ni te castiga. Y pienso que ese es como una especie de crimen, que el único que no tiene remedio es el peor. Y aparte tengo una amiga que la violaron y puta lata.
¿Qué edad tenía tu amiga?
7. Y ahora tiene 16. ¿Cómo te llamas?
Yo me llamo Carolina, ¿y tú?
Fernando. Feña.
¿Peña? A mí me dicen Carola.
Carola.
Porque esto, bueno, está seguro relativamente, ¿no? Como todo.
Amazing pieces that you've got. You've sort of strung them together in this incredible way. What would you say to other emerging filmmakers from the kinds of experiences that you've had?
I think each person's path is unique, and the way that I've gone about developing a career in the arts is the way that it has happened for me, right? The way that I work is pretty much I'm always working, but it doesn't really feel like I'm working because it's what I love to do. So I'm always thinking of things that I want to shoot and things that I'm interested in, and I'm archiving, little bits and pieces, and whenever I have the desire to bring things together, right, or the impulse to, oh, actually this is something that I would like to communicate, right, I'm never really forced by the medium. I tend to use whatever medium seems more reasonable, right, for the idea or the concept that I want to express, right. In most cases, it's media related because that's the disciplines that I've put time, invested time into, mastering. But for me, it's not a process that starts and ends. It's this sort of constant, feeding into interest and curiosities and things that spark my attention, right? In some cases, they result in very straightforward documentary pieces like the one on flamenco. In some cases, they result in experimental video artwork. In some cases, it results in, prints, right? Or video installations. There's like a whole variety of things that I've done and that I will most likely continue to do. So the advice, I think, is to follow your heart and to, find ways to get things done in the way that you feel is, viable, and take chances and grab opportunities as they arise and be persistent and don't give up whenever you get a rejection letter, because you'll get tons of rejection letters and, tons of failed attempts. But if you put enough time and energy into it, you'll get some, successes, and you will win some of the battles.
I think what's interesting is that you're constantly filming little things that you don't necessarily have a project in mind yet, but you're collecting little pieces for whenever they might come together. Mm-hmm. And I love the way a lot of what you've done in Spain have come together as well. You've used pieces of Spain in several of your, in your documentary as well as in several of your installations.
There's this one route, right, of the constant gathering and collecting, right, which in my case is mainly images, right? And in many cases that I don't necessarily know what I'm going to do with that, right? And then there's the other work that is very motivated and very determined, right? I want to do this, and then I go and do it, right? And so I'm usually working on a variety of different things at the same time. I'm never just working on one thing.
Your experimental pieces, I think, are amazing, and you're a performer. You've acted with Quantum Theatre, remarkable performances that I've seen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for watching Indie Film Forum. I'm Kalpana Biswas. See you next time. And for more information, please look at our websites.